Won the second, and he won the third. And super hyped up by that win. And there's a pin with that press there. One of the matches that was announced on the East versus West 7 card was Brandon Elsessor versus Samushia. Now, Brandon Elsessor is highly ranked at 210 pounds in the U.S. He's number 4 on the left arm and number 3 on the right arm at 210 pounds. But this match that he's taking part in is against Samushia, who is the current champion, and this is for the world title at 85 kilograms, which is about 190 pounds, a little under 190 pounds. And the thing is, Brandon has a huge frame. Like for him, he's probably gonna have to cut 10 to 20 pounds to get to 190, because he usually seems to compete from 200 to 210 from what I've seen. Now, some of his like notable accomplishments are beating Travis Bagent, which was in a best of 3 super match, in which he basically outlasted Travis Bagent, even though he lost his wrist. This was the 3rd round right here. And Travis beat him the 1st round, then Brandon won the 2nd, and he won the 3rd. And super hyped up by that win. I mean, you could say that that's an out-of-shape Travis. He wasn't taking it too serious or whatever, but that's still impressive considering that's Travis's left arm. And one thing I noticed about Brandon, that he's very comfortable with like a flop wrist press. He's very comfortable with going inside, and he oftentimes loses his wrist but is still able to win. But the thing about Samushia, from what I've seen, is that he seems to be predominantly a hook puller, which means potentially might not be an issue that Brandon loses his wrist, because it might just go right in the hook anyways, and Brandon seems to be very comfortable in a hook. So this match, Brandon's recent match against Craig Tullier at the Monster Factory, was one of the best examples of Brandon, to see his style and stuff like that. This match was an absolute war as well. Craig, a guy who's super explosive, and I've noticed Brandon has some pretty good endurance. This is a best of 5 match right here. I mean, that looks like a card before the start from Craig there. Yeah, they're calling the foul on him. So they give Brandon the first win on fouls there. They're going into the straps for the 2nd round. So you see a top roll attempt by Brandon there, but when he's not able to win in top roll, he usually tends to transition back inside. As you're seeing here, he started with the top roll, but he's committing his shoulder forward more, rotating and trying to get his shoulder behind it. Craig's still with the side pressure hits. So you see him trying to get his shoulder behind it, but Craig has too much cup and too much access to side pressure from that position, is able to win. That puts it at 1-1. Here's the 3rd match. Let's go to the start. Slip, go to the straps. Brandon takes the wrist slightly here. Craig's still pushing sideways, even with his wrist bent back in the strap there.
I would not be surprised if eventually
Another hit, even without his wrist. Craig is still committing to the side there, but Brandon is doing a better job of controlling the hand of Craig in this match here. But he should be climbing more, and now his wrist is starting to go backwards. He's starting to get in that side pressure bent wrist position once again, but he tries to transition and Craig wins once again. If he can't get his shoulder behind it, then you see what happens with Craig going to the side. They call that a foul. This match had a lot of fouls. This was a long match, but it was super, super close.
Here we go. Ready, bang.
There's a hit again. Brandon taking the wrist, but Craig still going sideways and still accessing pronation, even with his wrist bent back slightly there.
Pronation gets compromised. It just gives Craig access. Looks like he's sneaking up there.
You can see Brandon just palm under, trying to inch forward to get his shoulder behind it here in this position, but Craig is in a dominant position with his hand there.
Everyone is just invested.
See, it looks like Craig is just holding, trying to wait for Brandon to gas out in this position. Brandon has a good amount of endurance, even in a position like that, which is pretty ugly, but Craig with the win there. Oh, they're calling an elbow foul. So that was a 2nd elbow foul. What are they calling this? Clearly a foul, blah, blah, blah.
WAF.
So there's some drama regarding fouls or whatever, so they're restarting. So there's a lot of restarts in this match here. That's why I'm kind of skipping forward some of it. But here's one of the restarts. They get in that similar position, but the thing is, Samushia, I believe, will probably be hooking, so I don't see it being a similar position to this match. But Craig ended up just losing to Samushia in the last East versus West. You guys remember that. But Brandon was able to beat Craig too, so we'll see how Brandon does against Samushia. A lot of people are saying it's a mismatch, but I don't think so. I think Brandon is a really strong dude, and he has a bigger frame as well. It's just, I think that the weight cut could potentially not be good for him. He might lose a lot of strength. He's got to go down to 190. I don't know if he's comfortable at 190, but if he's competing at 200 to 210, he looks like a guy with a big frame. It's hard to believe that 190 would be easy weight for him to make.
Wow.
So some sort of restart once again. There's a shitload of restarts in this freaking match here. Another win by Craig there, but another restart. You see it keeps going into the similar position, but Brandon with the endurance in the fourth. This is the fourth round, but there's been a lot of restarts. So I mean, they pulled about 8 or 9 times basically by now. But you see once again that position with his wrist bent backwards, and he's inching his shoulder behind it. Once he gets his shoulder behind it, Brandon is super strong. He gets that downward shoulder press. Seems to be a really good position. He beat Travis like that on the left, even with his wrist back. He was inching forward and using his pronation. There you see it. He's isolating Craig's pronator with the press there, the wedge, as you call it.
We're going to see another round.
Yeah.
We're going to see another round.
And you can just see Craig is just gassing out here. That's a kind of an unconventional position, almost a Jerry Caderet type position here by Elsessor.
Both guys can win.
And there's Craig is gas. So they go to the final round here. This is for the win in this absolute war.
Who wants it more? Who wants it more?
We will find out.
So Brandon initiates once again with the top roll. This time his wrist is going back once again. Similar position as it's been in all these matches, but in this round he's able to inch his shoulder forward efficiently enough. I think it's because he has a little bit more endurance than Craig. That's what it's seeming like to me. There you see him inching closer and closer, getting that shoulder behind. And this seems to be a typical position from Brandon, so we'll see if he'll be able to do this against DeVete, but I imagine DeVete will hook him, so it'll be an inside versus inside match instead of, as you see, Craig going mostly just outside the whole time, trying to climb Brandon's hand. And there's a pin with that press there. So that gives you a little taste of what Brandon can do. And some people were saying it's a mismatch against DeVete Samushia, but I really don't think so. I think it could potentially be a good match. And Engen set it up, and he's known to make some good matches. He has an awareness of what type of match will be a good match, you know, and what will just be a blowout. And it seems like he tries to make matches that will actually include like wars and stuff like that. So what do you guys think on this matchup and Brandon? Do you think he can beat the Georgian hook monster Samushia? Let me know.